8 things I know about love now, after a lifetime of loving and losing. Asterisk, they say love is simple. But I've lived long enough to know that's not true. Love is not simple, it's not neat. It doesn't always arrive when it should, and it certainly doesn't always stay when you want it to. Love has held me up like sunlight on a good day, and knocked the wind out of me like a fist to the chest on a bad one. I've whispered it into the darkness, screamed it across rooms, wept it into pillows, and once, I stood beside a fresh grave and said it with no one left to hear. So no, love is not simple. But it is sacred. I didn't come to these thoughts easily. They came one hard-earned lesson at a time, through the thrill of first kisses and the ache of final goodbyes, through marriages, mistakes, children, distance, betrayal, reunion, and the kind of grief that changes the shape of your soul. And strangely, it's only now, in the quiet years, with silver in my hair and peace in my chest, that I can see love for what it really is. Not the version we chase when we're young and aching to be chosen. Not the kind that looks good on paper or gets likes on a screen, but the kind that grows in silence, holds on during storms, and teaches you about yourself in ways nothing else can. You see, love isn't always about holding on. Sometimes it's about letting go with grace. It's about sitting with the uncomfortable truth that not all stories end the way we want them to, but they still matter, they still count. Because love, even the kind that ends, still shapes us, still softens the edges of who we are, still opens us to the world, even when it breaks us a little along the way. And the older I get, the more I realize love doesn't get easier with age. It gets deeper, slower, quieter, but far more real. It asks different things of you. Less drama, more presence. Less proving, more understanding. And more than anything, it asks for honesty. With the people you love, and with yourself. So if you've ever loved and lost, if you've stayed too long or walked away too soon, if you're still holding out hope, or if you're learning to live without it, this is for you. These are the 8 things I know about love now. Not because I read them in a book or heard them in a movie, but because I lived them, everyone. And I carry them with me like old photographs, a little faded maybe, but never forgotten. I used to think that if a love ended, it meant I'd failed, that I had made a mistake, that I gave too much, or that I'd trusted the wrong person. But now I know it was never a waste. Not the summer I spent writing letters to someone who stopped answering them. Not the years I poured into a marriage that unraveled slowly like thread from an old sweater. Not even the quiet crushes or the one-night dances that never turned into more. Every single one mattered. Every single one taught me something about who I was, what I needed, what I feared, what I was willing to give, and what I needed to stop giving. Love, even the kind that doesn't last, still does its work. There was a woman I knew in my 20s, Mary. Bright eyes, a laugh like honey, and a wildness that made you feel more alive just standing next to her. We loved recklessly, urgently, like time was chasing us. And maybe it was. It didn't last. She moved across the country, and we grew into people who didn't quite fit anymore. But that season of my life, it was golden. I was better for having loved her. You see, love doesn't have to be forever to be real. We often treat relationships like investments that failed if they don't give us the return we expected. But love isn't a transaction, it's an experience. It lives in the moment. It was given. And if you loved with sincerity, even if it ended with tears instead of vows, it still counts. It still shaped you. Some people come to show you how deep you can feel. Others come to show you what you'll never settle for again. And both are a kind of gift. So don't regret the love that didn't last. Regret is for things that harm. Love, even the painful kind, is always a seed. Something in you grew because of it, and you never walk away empty. When I was young, I thought love would feel like fireworks. And it did for a while. The late night calls, the passionate kisses, the way your heart races just hearing their name. It's easy to think that's what love is, but that's not. Love, that's chemistry, that's electricity. And like all sparks, it fades unless you feed the flame. Real love, the kind that lasts, it's quieter, it's steadier, and it's a choice you make every single day. I learned that with my first wife. We were young, broke, and full of opinions. Some days, love meant holding hands at the grocery store. Other days, it meant not walking out during a fight. And I'll be honest, there were times when I didn't feel in love. There were mornings when the coffee was cold, the kids were crying, and we barely looked at each other. But we stayed, not because it was always perfect, but because we chose to. Choosing love doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. It doesn't mean silencing your needs. But it does mean remembering that love is built in the ordinary. Not in the grand romantic gestures, but in the way you show up. Over and over, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Do the dishes when you're tired. Apologize when you're wrong. Say, I love you, even when you're mad. Forgive, not because they deserve it every time, but because you want to live with a soft heart. Hold their hand when they're hurting, even if you're hurting too. You don't build love by waiting for it to feel easy. You build it by choosing to stay connected, even when the storms roll in. And if you find someone who chooses you, not just once, but every day, hold on to them with both hands. That's the rare kind of love, not flashy, but faithful. This is one I wish I had learned sooner. There was a man I loved, deeply, fiercely. He carried pain like a shadow. You could see it in the way he flinched when someone raised their voice, in the way he kept his distance when things got too real. I thought if I loved him enough, if I was patient enough, gentle enough, strong enough, that he would heal. He didn't. He didn't want to look at the wounds, didn't want to sit in the discomfort of healing. And the harder I loved, more I disappeared trying to reach him. Here's the truth I had to learn the hard way. You can't outlove someone's unwillingness to face their own pain. Love can support. It can encourage. It can sit beside someone as they struggle, but it can't do the work for them. You can hand them a key, but you can't make them unlock the door. There's nothing noble about losing yourself in the name of saving someone else. It doesn't mean your love wasn't real, or that you were wrong to hope. It just means healing has to be a choice. There's not yours. And the hardest part? Walking away when you realize love alone isn't enough. That you can't fix them. That sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop trying to carry both of your hearts at once. I still think of him sometimes. And I hope, wherever he is, that he found his way through the dark. But I don't blame myself anymore. I did the best I could. And then, I let go. If you're trying to love someone into healing right now, I want you to hear this. It's not your job to save them. It's your job to stay whole. You are not the cure. You are a companion, and only if they're walking, love them. But love yourself. That balance is everything. There was a time in my life, and maybe you've had one too, where I bent so far for someone else. I forgot I had a spine. I accepted crumbs and called it a meal. I waited on calls that never came, made excuses for silence, twisted myself into someone else's shape just to be wanted. I was trying so hard to be enough for someone else that I completely abandoned myself. It took years, and one particularly quiet morning, for me to realize I hadn't just lost them. I had lost me, and that's when it clicked. The way you love yourself teaches the world how to love you, not in a self-help, read it on a mug kind of way, but in the raw, lived truth of it. Because when you don't believe you deserve gentleness, you'll settle for sharp edges. When you don't feel worthy of being chosen, you'll wait for someone to pick you last and still feel grateful. But self-love? That's not bubble baths or saying affirmations in the mirror, though those things have their place. It's boundaries. It's telling the truth even when your voice shakes. It's choosing rest. It's walking away from the person who makes you feel small. Even when you love them. It's learning to sit alone, not in loneliness, but in wholeness. To eat a meal alone and savor it. To laugh out loud at something only you found funny. To hold your own heart like it matters, because it does. I didn't learn self-love in my 20s. I didn't really practice it in my 30s, but in my 40s, in the wreckage of a love I thought would last, I started to pick up the pieces of myself I'd left scattered everywhere. And I made a quiet promise. Never again would I love someone else more than I loved my own peace. The people who come into your life will reflect the relationship you have with yourself. And the ones who don't, the ones who try to rewrite your worth, they won't stay long. Not if you love yourself deeply enough. So start there. Start with you. Everything else will rise or fall on that foundation. My father was a good man, a hard man too. Worked long hours, hands always stained with grease or dirt, and rarely spoke more than he had to. He never said, "I love you." Not once, not until I was much older. And even then, it came out more like a cough than a confession. But every Sunday morning, like clockwork, there'd be a small bag of donuts on the counter with my name scribbled on it. He filled my gas tank when I was in college and never mentioned it. He stood up at my wedding and cried so quietly you wouldn't notice unless you were looking. It took me years to realize that was love. Not the kind you see in movies, big speeches, dramatic reunions, but the kind that fixes your broken fence without being asked. That shows up again and again, without fanfare. And it taught me something else, too. People love with the tools they were given. Some were raised on hugs and heart-to-hearts. Others were taught that love looks like survival, protection, or sacrifice. And when you're expecting a bouquet, but they hand you a toolbox, it's easy to feel unloved. But love doesn't always speak your language. That doesn't mean you're wrong to want more, to crave softness, words, consistency, touch. Your needs matter. Your heart matters. But when we stop demanding love look a certain way, we begin to see it everywhere, in actions, in effort, in presence. And still, sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes, despite their best, they can't give you what you need. And that's not always because they don't care. It's just, they don't know how. Or they're not ready. Or they love from a place that doesn't align with your soul. In those moments, you have a choice. Accept the love as it is and adjust your expectations. Or walk away and make space for the love you truly need. Neither choice is wrong. Both require courage, but never again let someone's limited expression make you feel unworthy. You are not hard to love. You just might be loving someone who never learned the language you speak. That's not your fault. And it's not theirs either. It's just life, complicated, beautiful, human. I lost her on a Tuesday. We'd been married 34 years. 3 decades of shared toothbrushes, missed anniversaries, holding each other's hands at graduations and funerals. And then one day, she wasn't there. Just silence. Her side of the bed colder than I'd ever imagined it could be. Grief, I learned, isn't just sadness. It's disorientation. It's walking into the kitchen and forgetting why. It's staring at the phone and wishing you could dial heaven. It's seeing a shirt she used to wear and folding over like a collapsed lung. Love, real soul-deep love, when lost, doesn't just bruise. It breaks. But here's what I didn't expect. The breaking was also a beginning, not right away. For a while, I was just pieces. A man-shaped memory walking around in the shell of a life. But slowly, painfully slowly, something started to rebuild. Not the old version of me. That man was gone, but a new one. Quieter, softer, someone who stopped rushing. Someone who paid attention to the sky again. Someone who cried at commercials and smiled at strangers because why not? Loss, as cruel as it is, reshaped me into something more tender, more awake. I started writing again, volunteering, saying, "I love you" to my kids without waiting for the right moment. Because there may not be one, I carry her still, every day. In the way I stir the coffee, in the lullabies I hum to my granddaughter, in the way I say grace a little longer now. She's gone, but the love remains, not in the same way, but in every way that counts. Love will break you, yes. It will tear through your routines, your plans, your heart. But if you let it, it will also rebuild you, not to who you were, but to someone who understands just how sacred this whole messy, beautiful thing is. You don't come through grief unchanged, but you do come through. And love, strange, stubborn, resilient love, finds a way to grow in the cracks. We've all seen the big kind of love, the movie scenes with airport chases, tearful declarations in the rain, fireworks in the background, and music swelling as two people kiss like the world stopped spinning. But the love that has marked me the most wasn't loud. It was the way she made my coffee, 2 sugars, no cream, every single morning without asking. It was the way he waited in the car every day at 5:10, never rushing me, never honking, just waiting. It was the way her hand found mine during the credits at the movies, not because she had to, because she wanted to. It's easy to overlook the quiet kind of love. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't post itself online. It doesn't shout, but don't mistake soft for small. Some of the deepest, most soul-altering love comes in whispers, not roars. I knew a couple, married 52 years. Never once did I hear them say, "I love you," in front of anyone. But I saw him warm her soup before she asked. I saw her tuck a scarf into his coat when the wind blew. I saw the way they looked at each other, like they still saw the whole world inside. The same pair of eyes. That's the kind of love that doesn't need to prove itself. It just is. Loud love can be beautiful, but loud isn't better. Loud isn't deeper. Loud isn't more lasting. Don't go chasing fireworks when what you really want is a hearth. Because in the end, the love that stays isn't the one that makes the most noise. It's the one that shows up when the party's over, that folds your laundry, that takes your call, that remembers how you like your eggs, that holds your grief without trying to fix it. That's the kind of love that rewrites your DNA, quietly, powerfully, forever. I was 68 the last time I fell in love. I didn't expect it. I thought that part of my life was behind me, the part with butterflies, long walks that turn into longer conversations, the ache of wanting to share everything again. But there she was, sitting 3 pews up at church, humming off key and smiling like she hadn't forgotten how. It started slow. A hello, a book we both liked, a cup of tea after service. And one day I looked over and realized I'd let someone in again. You see, time doesn't close your heart. Fear does. Grief does. The lie we tell ourselves that we've missed our chance does. But love? Love doesn't own a clock. It comes when it's ready, and when you are. Was it different, falling in love in my 60s? Absolutely. There were no games, no ego, no pretending. Just 2 people with scarred hearts and soft eyes, meeting each other where we were. It wasn't about fixing each other. It was about witnessing each other. Choosing to walk together, not to complete one another, but to accompany. You don't have to get it right the first time, or even the second. Love isn't about timelines or perfection. It's about presence. So if you're older now, if you've been through divorce, widowhood, heartbreak, if you're sitting there thinking the door is closed, hear me, it's not. The heart doesn't retire. It just waits. And sometimes, the love that comes later is the kind that fits best, because you know who you are. You've stopped trying to be someone else, and you're finally ready to be loved as you. Don't give up on love. It hasn't given up on you. If love has taught me anything, it's this. You don't always get to choose how your story unfolds, but you do get to choose how open your heart remains. I've loved wildly and carefully, loudly and quietly. I've loved people who stayed and people who left. I've held hands in hospital rooms. I've said goodbye at gravesides. I've danced in kitchens and cried in driveways. And through it all, every version, every chapter, love was there. It taught me to be softer, even when the world said hard was safer. It taught me to try again, even after the last time hurt. It taught me that love is not a promise of happiness. It's an invitation to grow, to stretch, to give, to receive, to break, to rebuild. Love is not just a thing you fall into. It's a path, sometimes winding, sometimes uphill, but it's always leading you closer to others, yes, but also to yourself. So wherever you are right now, single, partnered, divorced, grieving, hoping, I want you to know this: you are still worthy of love, and not just a romantic kind. The kind that finds you in friendship, in family, in the quiet peace of loving yourself well. Love has been the hardest, most beautiful teacher of my life. It has undone me and remade me. And if I had to do it all again, even the pain, even the loss, I would. 1,000 times over, because in the end, love is the only thing that makes the mess of life make sense. So love, fully, honestly, imperfectly. Love now while you can.